is let's take a minute to check in with our feelings. Take your left hand, put it over your heart, and your right hand and put it over your left. And just tune in to see how you're feeling. Does anybody want to share what your experience was when you first did the exercise and maybe what it is now?
So I'll go. I'll jump. I guess when I started the exercise, I was thinking about a lot of things, but
And he is in Hawaii, so I think her signal sometimes might.
It's at the center community, how nice it is to tune into ourselves at all. You know, but like to have actually, that's the thing. Yeah.
Okay. It was a little choppy, but Joe, do you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, the thoughts were racing through my head initially. I paused from working on this podcast I'm deep in, and to have this meeting, which I'm really glad to have the opportunity to do, and just feeling my heartbeat kind of dropped me into my body a bit more, which was really great. And then a couple deep breaths further. It was neat to embrace the fact that all of us are sitting here together in our own places across this big old beautiful planet we're on. And as I'm entirely new to this, I just surrendered to listening for a lot of today's conference and just opening myself up to what comes next. So it became really calming, and then I got a little excited. So that's where I'm at now. My heart beat a little faster, and now I'm like, all right, what's gonna happen next? So yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a bit of scattered energy this morning, and I also have a lot of noise around me because I'm in a public environment, and I usually don't opt to jump on conference calls when I'm constrained by this type of environment, but I just chose to today for some reason. And so it was interesting to have a moment to pull in all of that energy and just ground into the space and be just with you guys for a moment in that exercise. And so it's kind of allowing me to be present.
Perfect. Great. For me, I actually felt a little bit of nervousness when I first dropped in, and then it started to subside a little bit. They say nervousness and excitement are the same energies. I usually don't drink caffeine, but I'm at a coffee shop, so I felt obligated to buy a chai. So it's a little bit of caffeine. It's enough to kind of get me. I felt it in my face a little bit. But yeah, being able to recenter myself is what I experienced. And tune into how I want to be for this call. Anyone else?
I'll go ahead and share. I've been really actually centering myself all day, so I'm really enjoying the bliss of that, and it's a beautiful day out here, and just laying in the hammock and listening to the sounds of nature. But during the exercise, I really kind of felt like I am in the eye of the center of a hurricane. And yeah, just trying to center myself in that eye right now. And it feels good. And it feels like I'm glad that we take a moment to do that as a group before we move into whatever it is we're going to be moving into. Yeah, I think it's a good centering process. So thank you for doing that, Josh.
Oh. And for Vishal and for, I'm guessing that's JJ, what we were doing was we were just putting our hands over our heart and just feeling for a second. And 1 second, excuse me. Okay, so maybe it'd be good to, one of the things that we are in this process, as we start to get this momentum, and we've gotten a lot of momentum on the idea realm and the cohesion realm, but our energy levels, as we do start to bring new people into the circle, it's going to be very important that we all, hold on a second, Stephen is chiming in. He might be, anyhow, it's very important that we all, he can't jump on. Can someone get on Facebook on the declaration call and help Stephen while I'm facilitating? So as we go along, we'll be bringing new people in, and if our energy, if we don't have the call process down in a way that we're gaining momentum, but we're also able to deeply listen to each other, and we're able to maintain our unified field. If there's no unified field, if we become separate again, and then we're not really focused on the same thing as a group, then things could fall apart a lot easier than if we can train ourselves in keeping a unified field. So that being said, some time to practice these kind of things. What I would like to add in here at this call, two things, is during the call, I would like to come back at this point. Anybody during their turn, if they feel like we're getting off focus, or that we're, or just if they feel like it's time to do a check-in, let's jump back to that space really quick. Let's practice that sometime mid-call, maybe when we start getting excited and things start getting kind of, and so we can come back to our intention for the call. Our intention for the call is still to fill out the next steps. I would like to start with one more thing though. If anybody would like to say what's happening in your life that's good. So we can start to focus on, we're bombarded by media and news and what's bad and what's not working. Maybe we could all share a little something about what is working. Whoever wants to go first, just go for it. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you all. This is good news. We are good news.
Speaking of, if what we're doing right now, Michael, is we're all sharing maybe just like a 1 minute, really quick summary of what is working in your life, what you're thankful for, or what's the good news, something positive for you. You want to share?
Sure, yeah, I'll share something.
Okay.
Well, there seems to be a holographic singularity of sorts happening, and the space between total amnesia and total revelation seems to be condensing. So it looks like we're waking up to the most obvious solutions that have been staring at us in plain sight. And so the more obvious it gets, the more celebration and peace becomes a natural state of our experience. So this is good news.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll share. I feel the biggest blessing in my life is to be surrounded by people that have persevered on this missionary work, and the love and the support that is available through that networking and friendship. It's really a blessing to me, because I really feel like if I didn't have that, I would be fucking insane right now. And I like that it grounds me and keeps me focused, and I have those mirrors to remind me where we're going and what we're doing and the importance of it. And it's a huge, huge blessing. So I just appreciate all of you today. And I did want to share one other thing that is off this subject later.
Okay, if it's off, let's set some time aside at the end of the call, and we'll open it up for that. Sound good? Okay. Anyone else?
I just want to share that I'm new here, so I'm not trying to hide behind my camera here. I'm just going to sit back and listen and catch up. And but on the subject, I will let you know that yeah, I'm just happy to be here with my cat at my side, and I'm working with World Summit, and I'm really happy to know that Josh is going to be here in a few days, and we'll be able to sit down face to face and do some collaboration, co-creation together. And I'm happy to be here with you guys, and forgive me for just sitting back and listening. I like to sit back in the background anyway, so it's just appropriate for me to be quiet and observe at this time. Thank you
Awesome.
all.
Thanks for chiming in. And don't feel, you good to observe, and don't feel like you can't jump in. I don't think there's anything that you could do that's wrong. It will be, but yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Yeah, and just one more thing too. I will keep my camera off because often I'm in Mexico, so I have, and the weather's kind of bad today, and I'm quite pleased at the reception I'm getting right now. But I want to keep it that way, so I keep the bandwidth down and keep my camera off.
Awesome. Thanks, JJ.
Plus, you don't want to see my ugly mug anyway.
Okay. Anyone else? What's the good news? What are you thankful for? Michelle.
Hello. Well, I think somebody already covered what I was going to say, which is I'm really thankful to be surrounded by all of the global tribe and our mirrors across the world to see the truth as we do, and everybody is conspiring to work together, which is really fantastic. And so I think the time really is now where we can have these conversations to find out exactly what we need to move forward.
Oh, thank you. See you soon too. All right. Anyone else?
Quickly. I just wanted to, I'm not sure if I jumped in late in this call, or do we take a moment to have everyone introduce themselves briefly? I'd love to know who's here, if that's kind of part of the intention or function of the meeting.
We actually usually do that through a video intro, so we can see who's on the call and get familiar with them. In these cases, since we're still forming, we can take that time. We did do an intro with Joe, who's new. If anybody feels inspired to do an intro and keep it brief, that's totally fine. And if we do it every time, and we all go, and we're all speaking for 5 minutes, then it takes up the whole call.
Yeah, even like 30 seconds.
Yeah. You may want to we can do a brief intro, but first let's finish let's give everyone a chance to finish. I think it's Joe and then me on what's good for you right now. Joe, do you want to?
Sure, I'll jump in on that. As of this moment, I think there was one tiny itty bitty little small tweak in my left shoulder blade, but beyond that, I'm in pretty much perfect health. So I think that's something to be quite grateful for. And as I mentioned just at the beginning, joining up with all you as of yesterday, I am just really in a space of kind of open receptivity and gratitude, because this global network is important, and you're all doing really great work. You haven't beyond this digital realm just yet, save for Josh. So I'm just feeling good. Grateful for family. My mother-in-law's in town, and she's a wonderful, wise 82-year-old Holocaust survivor. So she carries great stories and is always inspiring for me, knowing what she's gone through to remind me of where we are and where we are going. And so, yeah, I'm just feeling good. I'm grateful to be here with y'all. So thank you.
Would you like? Great. So I'll do mine. For me, it was just the way I woke up today. I felt was very. My dreams were starting to come back in, and I was in this very solutionary space, and it always is really important to me. Actually, this last few weeks, I've been kind of sleeping heavy and not really not as heavily guided as I usually am. And so to have that today was refreshing. And then the walk here was nice. I was able to pause every once in a while, slow myself down, feel the sun, tune into the unified field that always exists around us. just being connected to that is what I'm thankful for right now. And everyone already knows me, so I don't need to introduce myself. But if anybody else wants to do an introduction, go for it. Yeah, do a quick introduction. But Tiana, you had raised your hand. Is that so? Is that something that you're still?
Yeah, sorry. You can let me put it down. It's okay. That was about the other thing. It's been up for a while.
Okay.
I will add that really earlier was my introduction, but I forgot to say who I was. I'm JJ, John Jenkins. John J.J. Jenkins. I know Michael from Facebook, and I've known Tiana for a few years, and I've known Josh for a few years. The rest of you guys I don't know, but I'm pleased to be in your presence and looking forward to possibilities.
Hey, JJ, it's great to see you here, or not see you here, hear you here.
Can I do my life check-in?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so excited. I randomly, on my birthday, went into a Japanese restaurant to eat noodles and drink sake, or to eat sushi and drink sake, and by myself. And sitting next to me was some dude who was like all timid about slurping his noodles. And I was like, dude, you have to slurp your noodles because that's polite in Japan. He's German, right? He's like, oh, trying to get a fork. I'm like, don't get a fork, slurp. And so we started talking. And I met up with him again yesterday. He used to work for the German Technical Corporation that does like aid assistance all over the world. And he also used to work for the German Food Manufacturers Association. So the app that I'm trying to develop in Holochain, or I'm working to develop in Holochain, is exactly what he and his colleagues have been wanting for like decades, since the 80s. And they really want to implement residue testing for pesticides so that they can hold agribusiness companies accountable. And I'm gonna be a part of it. It's so fun. Oh my god, it's gonna be so much work. I'm gonna die. That's all. I'm having a good day. Yay. The plants are happy. Yay. Plants don't like that. Oh.
Thank you. Anyone else want to do a quick, super quick, brief intro before we get started with the work? The good work. Angelina, I will unmute you. Go ahead. Welcome. Did I unmute you and then you unmuted yourself? Or you muted you? Go ahead. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hi everyone. I'm just like taking y'all in for a minute.
Come on.
I love your story, Milan. That is epic. My check-in is that I just moved to Santa Cruz and having loads of synchronistic encounters already. I keep thinking about the mission that Josh has been on and who he's gathered close to him, and I'm so happy that I get to jump on this right now to just say everything I know is moving in the right direction for ultimate collaboration and ecstatic co-creation, and that's what I'm signing up for. Yes. Milan, I want to piggyback. Like, I also just had a birthday, and I didn't get to really celebrate. So now that I'm back in what I consider one of my hometowns, even though I didn't grow up here, I'm gonna get to meet up with a bunch of my homies, and I definitely want to go have sushi. I wonder what kind of synchronistic encounter I could have there. Thank you. I also just want to say, Josh, part of what made me really tune in today is that the land that I moved onto is 5 acres, and the man is looking at expanding, including a couple of neighbor properties. And he's very inspired by Findhorn. He used to live there. He's a Scottish man with an English upbringing. And I think there's a ton of potential. We're in the redwoods, and I want to implement some of the principles that we've been going over as soon as possible. I feel like it'll make the transition a lot more fluid. So I'm here just to see what I can glean from whatever's being shared. And then Josh, if we can have a continued conversation sometime in the next few days or the next week, sometime soon would be great, to just tune in about where things are at and what can get utilized as soon as possible. So that's my check-in. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Let me answer that while we're here, if that's okay. What you can do, Tangelina, there's two things, but the first one and the most important is getting familiar with the organizational agreements, which you may or may not, you just get to decide how you're going to be working with those around you, including the landowner. So we can pull him through that same process to make sure that we're all on the same page. So above and beyond the initial universal field, if we're talking about working with someone, you can go through that process. It's on fullpotentialalliance.com. I'll put it in the messages for anyone that wants to review it. There's two people that have gone through it three that have gone through it completely, and there's two more that are for sure like getting ready to. And that's Brett and Mike Upstone, and then there's a few others that might just do it. And then afterwards, what it is you look through the videos, and then you just say either I'm yes to everything, or you say, hey, what about this question or that question? There was some questions I answered for Tiana. We should probably put that link somewhere visible. So maybe Tiana, you could put that link up on the Declaration of Agreements group page.
It's actually up there.
It's up there. Perfect.
Yeah, it's up there.
All right. Well, there you go. So you got that link you can find. It's come from Tiana, and then you can I'm putting it in the chat. It's Full Potential Alliance, and I actually just created a whole master plan for a property in Brazil. And so that can be applied, but you have to be on the same organizational field to be able to work with someone. So as soon as you're through that, you can read that, and that can be applied to other lands. And then from there, there's also business plans, but that means you've actually signed up to a master plan and been adopted to a team. Then you get access to like the business plans and like the full 9 yards.
So it's Full Potential Alliance and organizational plan, right?
Fullpotentialalliance.com.
.com.
I'm in the chat room right now. To the chat.
Okay. Sweet.
All right. Cool.
I'll mute.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have a desire to do a check-in and a hello? Stephen Black, go for it, and go ahead.
Sure. So I'm Stephen Black. I know some of you. I am getting ready to be able to participate more fully in this. Right now I'm working on a manufacturing company that I hope will be able to bring in a lot of resources, as well as be utilized as a way for a community to have work. That was interesting in the past, where we had a community where we didn't have jobs or work for people to do, that they were always either short resources, having too much time or whatever. So this is to provide that balance. And the type of work, though, is all rapid prototyping, meaning that people are going to be learning to use tools to create what they want. So it's not like a job where you do the same thing every day, but rather you're learning to use these tools that give you creativity to create whatever you need, so that the community can become independent of needing money, and instead being resource focused. And by having the tools and resources, we can create whatever the community needs. So that's kind of what I want to be able to contribute to this project when I'm able to.
I was muted. Thanks, Stephen. All right, a chance for anyone else to do an intro if they so choose. And like I said, in the future, we will have these, well, it's already been offered. There's a few people that have made videos. there, but it really, we're transitioning from a big giant group of randomness into focused teams, like within the next week or two. So this is probably going to be one of our last ones where we're just randomly all showing up without, you know, exact thing, you know, steps and focus. Yeah, if anybody else wants to share, and then from now on, like I said, it'll be done ahead of, it'll already be done. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the what we're doing here. Let's look. I'm going to screen share with you guys. Okay, here we are. Google Drive. And so within this, what I've got here, just to let you guys, give you a brief down once again. We have within the Declaration of Agreements, we have the overview, which people right now can go to. There's the invite. When we're ready to invite people, we can all send this to people. When they're in alignment, we send them the in the declaration, the universal agreement field, the actual declaration, the agreements. All of you on this call, I think, have gone through that, minus JJ. I believe he hasn't. But once you say yes, then you get on the chat room. And I think I have had you on the chat room anyway, JJ, but and that's how we should have through this call. And that's okay. So, and then here's the members. So we have it written. Actually, I'll check if JJ's on here. No, not yet. Okay. So here's the people that have gone through. So this is how we look at that. And then go back to here. Right now we're using the space agreements. We're using the co-creation manual created by Mike Upstone and other people. It's a whole thing. That's what we're using today. And then we're working specifically on today. And then there's level 2. This is the only people that are in this right now are the people that have agreed organizationally to NEOS. This is NEOS level 2. If there's a different organizational structure that appears, there'll be a different folder for that. And then within this, there's master plans. There's the read first document that gets everyone oriented. There's the map, the visual map of how it works. There's community folder, which has a lot of different things, resource sharing, a pool, protocol for calls. This is where we start getting into culture code. And then we have the next calls, so we can see what our next calls are and where they're at. Then we have specific projects. So this is where all of our projects come in, and we can jump on a project once you sign up for the master plan. I'm calling the training right now Coherency and Competency course. So we're able to be coherent and competent. And then within each one of these is a whole nother stuff to go through. So that's what's coming up. Right now we're here in the declaration and we're working on the next steps. That's right here. And so in here, we've already gone through all this, governance, gone through the funding. And so this funding, by the way, just so everyone knows, when funding comes in, it's going to go towards either a master plan that we've signed up to, most likely, because then it's very cohesive, and or it's going to go to this core of what we're doing here, which is obvious. So once we're onto working group teams, we're going to start recording our hours, and we're going to log things because we're working on next steps together. So we're actually working. Right now, we're still sort of training. Tech platform, I believe we are saving for later because we kind of went through it, but we decided to kind of build that out when we're ready. We're not quite ready. We need to have our membership model, I think, up and going to adopt people onto that. So there's a little work to do there. Physical building headquarters. This is where we left off halfway. Brett has some stuff he said. So there's some work on this initial paragraph that we're looking to co-create, so it's clear, it's more clear. What we have, let's go to this. This is where we left off. So we have designs for villages, cities, education hubs. These are just designs, right? Activation centers and more, and business plans. We have landowners, which either a landowner, either some kind of a down payment plus a business plan and or cash or pre-sales. Those are pretty much the only ways you're going to actually get traditional funding for anything. If you don't have any of those things, then usually you need a combo, but either something backing it, whether that's cash or a down land or cash, and or pre-sales. Those three things can back a project. Builders, blueprints for buildings. So we have that. We have funding models, and we have offers for co-creating. So does anyone on this call not have and Joe, you should have access to the, I think the only person is JJ that might not have access to this. Joe, you have access to the Google Drive, correct?
I haven't seen that invite. Did you send it to my email? Or through Facebook?
I'm just gonna make it quick. I'm just gonna send it to you right here. What's your email?
Joseph.m as in Michael .Culhane, C-U-L-H-A-N-E. Oh. C-U-L-H-A-N-E @gmail.
And please send it to me, Josh. Metaman811 @gmail.
Okay. What is it?
Metaman, 2 T's, 811 @gmail.
Okay. Now we want to make sure, though, also, JJ, that you're in alignment with the universal agreements. So I'm gonna put you on.
I'll go. I think I've gone through some of that. I didn't complete it, and I have gone through most of that Full Potential Alliance videos. But I got a lot of stuff on my plate right now, and I get distracted easily. But
okay.
Yeah, I'll go.
All right. Sounds good. So what we want a space. We want a space to call home, or at least a temporary home. We want something that we can, physically be at here very soon. A place that we have a similar vision. We want to be able to scale. So we want to have a system that works fluidly and smoothly, that we're all able to scale. We need that has buildings. We want, I don't know why this says that. We want, worded right, a space that is willing to get a loan to build out and fund the next steps. Okay. And what else?
Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't have access to the other file anymore. Did you take?
Which one? Which file?
I guess the first one.
This one that we're going over?
Yeah.
I thought I saw your name on here.
Oh, hold on. Okay.
You're on there.
I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, this is a chance. There's a lot of people on the call today, so this is a chance for us to co-create what we want. Someone's using a message. That's great. If you could you can either add it. You can add it straight into the document on Google Docs, and then we can just talk about it, because it's really something. We get to put everything we want on here, and then we can talk about it as a team, just so we get clarity around it. But really, we get to take our own. We can do two things if it's, as long as it's, not out of the agreement field, it's fine. We don't have to do anything we don't choose to do. Okay. So.
Hey, Josh,
Yes.
has there been any discussion as to the funding mechanisms against the land itself? Because there is a number of old models to look at if somebody has their land free and clear and they're opting into this agreement field. And then there's new ways of going about it if we're raising funds through a nonprofit organization or some other mechanism. Has that been discussed very much at this point, or is that something that needs to be put into play?
Yeah. It hasn't, but it's not super relevant right now, especially because it's easy to do. It's not, I mean, yes, there's a couple different ways. One thing we are looking at though, John, so this is I think it's going to be a little separate discussion because it's a case by case basis and it's not for everyone to really, be in on. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, so I made it.
And but yeah, it's a really it's just like funding any business. It has been discussed on in a way, but I would like to talk to you about what kind of structure what kind of structure choices we have. We could talk about this as a team, although I don't know. I think it's going to take the legal team to be formed and talk about it instead of all of us talking about it. And that is what kind of structure we want to encapsulate our business model, which is a whole giant discussion that needs to be done by experts that know the business model, no corporate structuring, and no land law in the actual area that we're building on. So if that's in Brazil, they need to know the law there, including corporate and whatnot. So that's why it's a little harder discussion to have on this. It's not really valid, worth our time. And
Right. I just wanted to see if it had been dove into at all, if it was something that needed to be excavated in another call. So
okay.
You answered that.
Yes. Yes. With some experts. Yes. Master planners mixed with legal. Okay. So our next step, finding the right landowner, and I'm going to put an S on here because it sounds like, Mike Upstone's at a land right now. Malia's got a land. There's so many lands popping up. We really want to focus on just one. We're all only able to focus on one at a time, but as we set up these decentralized methods, we can pop up a few at a time. But it's going to be tough. We just have to make sure not to get scattered. I mean, I think each one of us is going to want to. We're just going to have to focus on one at a time, I think. At least I am. So we find a landowner because we're talking about physical real estate right now, right? Okay. We go through the alignment and agreement process with them. We develop a specific master plan and next steps. Which, like I said, there's already been one developed. Sign agreements, get funding, pull the team members from the pool who are ready to link up, and market and bring in the world players. So this is specifically the business plan that I have the master plan of. There could also be training centers just by themselves. There could be the Artesia is doing kind of a centers around the world to kind of just bring in solutionaries and world leaders, but also kind of a hub for people to come visit and get familiar with what's going on, but not really commit to it. You could do it. I believe before I was focused on building a village, but I'm taking my personal time and effort out of that for a second because I feel like we need to have this temporary training, embodiment, and also bringing in world solutions and all these platforms aligning so that we can birth the village in the correct manner. And so that's what that business plan that the master plan that's up there now is geared towards. and but anyone can create anything on their land that they want. So it's not about, it's just about number 3, develop the master plan. That's just one of the next steps towards whichever project anyone's aligned with. Does anyone see anything else? So we're talking about, once again, the desire to live and work and play from a piece of land, raise family on, as well as having the tools we need that help us. We intend to go through prototyping, experimentation. We're co-creating and realizing high vibration lifestyle where we're in flow, honoring whatever blocks us and appears to be, I don't know what this means, honoring whatever blocks. Someone changed that or something. I don't think I wrote that. Basically finding a piece of land this needs to be worked on big time. Okay. Does anyone have anything else to add to the next steps so we can move to the training?
I just wanted to ask the question about, I know you're recording this particular call and you have the previous ones, and what other steps might be going on in the documentation / storytelling of this creation, if that's a part of this next steps, or if there's somebody dedicated to that role. I just feel like the ability to reflect on this journey, create the mythology around it, seems like an important part of the next steps as well.
So so you're saying the role is what? What's the role you're speaking to of doing what?
Almost the documentarian, if that's a word, just building the narrative beyond just this next steps, living document, but actually helping tell the origin story of what we're co-creating right now, so that we have that to reflect on and use as examples moving forward. I'm really just thinking out loud, of course, but I just see opportunity in that to entice those world players and build upon what's already been done. If that makes sense, you're already starting to make videos and do things, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I just see more opportunity in that. And I guess I was just wondering what's been done, or if there's an intentional focus, role, team involved with that particular realm of this journey.
Yeah. So some of our stuff is documented, and a lot of it is like through the calls and through what's here online. Creating a story around it is something, yes. So having a role for that. What we can do is we're pretty much going to be done with this real estate part right here. And so I added that. So we're going to be going to the education and training next. So let me come back to that in a second, but I did write it down. I just want to give everyone a chance to really pitch in on this really quick. So thank you, Joe. So yes, let's. I added that in, and I think that's really important. What are the? Is there any other next steps on real estate that people could see? Because what it shows here is basically from beginning to finish having a spot, launching some real estate that we can all jump in on and be able to be in the same page and it's smooth and all that. If there is, feel free to just, we can always go back to it, and you can just put it in the comments, or you can come onto the document and throw it in there. But what we want to do is throw stuff in there on the calls, because we're overviewing this. We don't want to come back. Right now, everyone has access to changing this, so you can make a comment, and we can all look over it at any time. We don't want a document that we're all changing on our own. So this is co-creation. This is why it's a presentation that we're going over and co-creating and making sure that it's resonant with everyone. And if there's anything questionable, we discuss it, and if there's any other options, we put them on there. We do have a whole land document that's sent out where people can donate. We don't have to necessarily, there's different ways. And I'm sharing that with, I'm going to share that with, like I said, that's a working group that we would be working on once we've signed up to the master plan and we're doing a project together clearly on a piece of land, then I will share that with the teams. And we went over yesterday fully what could get in the way. Is there anybody that sees there's a lot to this? This is like what could get in the way of a community working. So we did go over this last week, so I don't want to really like go over it too much more. Because it could eat up our whole call. I think we can finish this whole thing today if we start to do the education and training. And then we can, because I think we ran over that for like 40 minutes last time. So if that's okay with everyone, I'd like to jump onto the education. Okay. So Malia, would you like to take a shot at, are you available? Oh, you're cutting out. Maybe not.
Hello?
Yeah, okay. Would you like, are you cutting out or are you? Yeah, you're frozen.
I think it's okay right now. Can you hear me okay?
Can now, now we can. It's cutting out for a second.
Okay. So what's your question? Mm-hmm.
Would you, I was thinking if you wanted to take a shot at facilitating this section.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to read through it and then get the conversation going.
Yeah. So it's coming from the co-creation manual, which is in the it's space agreements, and it's coming from the energy circle.
Okay.
And so what that looks like is right here, the energy circle, and it says it's used for fast progress, enabling those with energy, knowledge, and enthusiasm to put forward solutions and improve them rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
The key roles of the chair is a servant leader. So you're not there to really like we don't want canned solutions. We just want to, in this case, if we're co-creating this one, we can take a proposal is a canned solution. But we don't want to create solutions on the calls necessarily. And what that means is if you're the servant leader, you're there to ask questions and support and kind of like facilitate whatever's already written. You want to value people's times, ensure positive progress is made, suggest practical compromises, but retain group focus, energy, and a positive momentum. Support the intention of the team's processes and agreements, ensuring everyone gets heard. You're keeping a focus on positive solutions, key word there. Okay. And
I think this is pretty clear.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just questioning in terms of the topic that we're discussing now, the education and training. Education and training on these agreements and on these like sort of governance structures that we're creating, or education and training like within the community, like once we start a community, what kind of education and training will be available?
Yeah, so this is basically what we need to get to the new paradigm. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to need an education and training sector for the whole shebang, like for this, for just generally allowing people to enter the field that have not gone through what we've already gone through and continuing to refine that process.
Okay, great. So does anybody have an idea about how you would want to incorporate people into the group and into the paradigm that we're forming? Is there anybody who already has an idea?
I have an idea of how to. I think there's two pieces to it. How I see it, and I'm going to make a note on a separate page because it's a little confusing even to me still. And that is, I think we have the personal training, so the I'm going to call it interpersonal, and the logical. And that's why I named this coherence and competency. Coherency and competency. Like right now, we're gaining coherence, but then we're going to be gaining competency, like so that we know that when someone's joining our team, they know what they're doing.
Awesome. Okay, so interpersonal is like, how do we treat each other? How do we talk to each other? Like no yelling, no, social violence, like bad words, right? Or is that
NVC, nonviolent communication.
right?
So I'm going to put that in what we have. We have NVC.
Okay.
We have that. We have it available.
Are there any other communication paradigms that have been tapped into by people who are here that they think would be helpful?
And this is for interpersonal right now?
Yes, for interpersonal. Yes.
Yeah, somebody said nonviolent communication. I think that's really important. It's also, we call it integral communication. So I found that to be the...
He froze.
Josh, I don't know if this is kind of off subject or not, but what comes to mind, if you're familiar with Susan Terry.
Who?
Susan Terry?
No.
No? She's got a project, an educational project going on. I think Tiana may know her. And then what comes to mind is that woman. I can't think of her name because she had a German name or something like that. But I think you may have met her when you were in Costa Rica with Linda Hamilton. She has a very successful
school.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't
meet her.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a school for children. So it's not necessarily, maybe not in this room that we're talking about. It's still education. I think her approach has been received very well, and it's based on spirituality and yeah. So I just want to throw that out there.
Great.
Okay, Susan Perry. We got that. And then Steve Black's suggestion was integral communication, although he dropped out before he could really explain what it was, unfortunately. You want to record that.
Oh, sorry, I'm still here. I didn't realize I dropped out.
Okay, I didn't hear what you said. Can you just repeat it? About integral communication?
It's basically, this Integral Institute, which explains our universe, has 4 perspectives of reality. You have the internal subjective, the individual subjective. You have the individual objective. You have the group subjective and the group objective. And it's organized the same as nonviolent communication. It talks to those 4 realities, which is feelings, observations, the social etiquette, and then the group reality, such as like the status of the world.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's the interpersonal level. What about the other, like, sort of larger educational group level? Josh, do you have more clarification about your thoughts in that area?
Well, so we're staying here, right? We're staying on interpersonal, what we have, correct?
Okay, so I guess we all weighed in on the interpersonal side.
So before we move on, we want to keep repeating. Does anyone have anything else to offer, and just continue to allow everyone to be fully complete on every single step. And then if no one's answering, just kind of do a 4-second countdown with your fingers. And if no one answers within, or 5, whatever, then move on. So keep asking that question. Is there anything else?
Okay. So does anyone else have a contribution to make about interpersonal communication and paradigms around interpersonal communication?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to find out, is this for creating our own education and training through the portal? And because I do have a lot of tools from the Intervisions Institute for Spiritual Development on different, one being spiritual principles, clear communication, different types of tools that we can use like carefrontation, things like that. If that would be helpful to bring to the table, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Awesome. And do you have like a list of these I guess modes of communication? Like, do you have that written down somewhere, or would you be willing to write down a Google Doc and share it with us?
Yeah, I can definitely reflect on it, what our needs are, and then I have access to a plethora of documentation and handouts of different types of all different kinds of tools, even from like fun things like finding out what people's listening styles are. But I think mostly for this would maybe be, I would want to know what we want to train on for the social etiquette and interpersonal relationship, and then I can pull documentation and
Great. Anybody else?
I have something that I have developed over the last maybe 3 months, maybe 2 months, 2 or 3 months. And it's a 4-step, it's a simple 4-step, it's a 4 stages. So it's an outline. So I have an outline.
Okay. Can you share the gist of it with us?
Yeah, it's right here. So the first step is healing and planning to avoid abuse. Okay. And then the second one would be finding your purpose, regaining your time, orienting yourself, kind of planning your life so that you're finding your purpose. Once you've healed, and you have tools to keep yourself from getting in bad situations. You find your purpose, find out how you can schedule time in your life to move forward, and then kind of orient yourself. And self-sabotage is part of abuse, by the way. And then we're in number 3 right now. We haven't really developed these first 2 yet. Like, we're just maybe naturally we have on our own, but we haven't really done it in a clear process. Right now we're learning co-creation. So we're kind of like doing this. There's some tools to co-creation that number 4 is creating teams, going into organization, master plan, sharing tools, like getting going. But before that, we want to know how we're co-creating with each other. So I see this as some steps towards getting an outline.
So is everybody familiar with why the infinite game is such a central concept here? Is everybody familiar with the infinite game?
I am.
I just want to share my understanding, and Josh, then you can reflect back if I'm understanding this correctly. But
yeah,
because in a finite game like a soccer match, there's like 90 minutes and then it's over, and whoever's the most goals wins, right? But in our real life, that's not how it works. Like, if I score a big one on you and I win, I'm like, ha, sucker, I win. But like, we all have to wake up tomorrow and be in the same community, and you're gonna punk me back, and this is just a crappy way to live. Like, we want to live with the awareness that our game is ongoing, that it's infinite, that if we play the game of contributing to each other and improving each other's lives, then that actually makes us a winner as the game goes on in more iterations. And then we all actually win and benefit from this. What am I understanding this correctly, Josh?
Yeah, the infinite world game or the infinite game theory has to do with a finite game has a specific beginning and an ending, and it has winners and losers. So you'll see it in Monopoly and chess and football and just about everything. And part of that's also titles. People get like a game could be I got a degree as a bachelor, and now or I got a degree and now I'm certified to do this, or even ownership is a piece of that. Winner, loser, degree. I've accomplished this. This is mine. This is who I am because of this is what I have. So I've won. I've already won this game. In the infinite game, there is no winners or losers, and there is no beginning or end. They say in a finite game you play within the boundaries. In an infinite game you play with the boundaries. So it's a constant evolution of us going through this process. I mean, this stuff we're building right now is the game we're creating, and there's no winners or losers. It's just us. We're going to be creating it, getting into teams, and as we mix in my mind at least, as we mix in virtual reality, augmented reality, training programs, we get to like start to play with them and have it be fun, especially when we're in the same space.
Awesome.
I just want to add, I'm happy to hear that because I'm pretty close to the New Map tribe and the infinite world subject being discussed.
Yeah. What do you have to input anything on that to explain it to us?
No, honestly, I don't. They kind of got their own little membrane going on, and they fit a little bit in wraps. But I know they're working very hard on it, and it'll hopefully soon be presented.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll get together with that in a couple of days when we all meet up if he's able to stay around. Brett. Okay, so I would love to add this in as a possible outline. And so this is interpersonal still. Does anyone, I guess you want to, I'll add this in as we talk as a step, as a 4-step process. And then there can be, let's add whatever else we need in there.
Okay.
Can I get, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit unclear, is what the education and training is for. Is it for when people come to say the activation center, or is it for the education and training of coming through this portal and learning how to co-create?
The onboarding to the declaration is coming through the portal, and interpersonal is stepping into a living environment where you want to be in alignment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have we got any more input for this area? It's been really exciting. I've learned a lot of things that I didn't know before, so this is cool. Anyone? Okay, so all right, so I guess we can move on to the next area once Josh is done typing this.
That's fine.
Well, the next area is onboarding to the Declaration of Agreements, right?
Yes, and what we have for that right now.
Okay. So I'm gonna just start and say that for me, the art of hosting has been a very valuable tool for empowering people while they're learning, because what it does is to draw out what people already know in sort of like a Freudian pedagogical method. So for me, the art of hosting is huge because it's engaging and it's collaborative learning. So it's a big topic. And who was it before that was saying that we needed some mythology and storytelling?
Joe.
Joe. Is this kind of what you were thinking, like when somebody's getting started, like what kind of, you know, what kind of material they're presented with, I guess, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, it was. Even as simple as taking a lot of what we're doing right now and manipulating the information into poetry, children's stories, examples, so people can access this information and technology in a really simple way, and through music, things like that are just really inherently accessible for the everyday person who's ready to make these shifts. So
definitely, I think that sort of like symbology, visualization, performances by artists and musicians is really, really important, so that you get kind of like a poetic understanding that's symbolic and not just having read the manual is a big deal, but then you also, like when you buy a piece of equipment, like you buy a hand drill, you have the hand drill, but you also have the whole, like, this is a DeWalt hand drill, like the whole thing, like a story that goes with it. And
Experience.
Dad made a swing set with this DeWalt hand drill. That's why you want it. So like, so yeah, this is cool. I definitely agree.
Couple other things to come to mind. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Okay. When mentioning the music, I think that this is somewhere that Gina Satoli could come into play here, as far as conscious awareness and spirituality, etc. She has a something called Cabaret of Consciousness, and it's all based on entertainment, but it's very educational entertainment.
Awesome.
And also, I'm maybe backtracking a little bit to the discussion a few minutes ago. And this is all an emergence through World Summit right now, but we're working on a buddy system, which maybe we can implement where when people come in, they are assigned a buddy to help them, to help introduce the whole process and help the newcomers understand better what we're all about and the approaches that we're taking. And on that note, I've created a roadmap for newcomers in the World Summit. I don't want to get into the World Summit, but somebody just recently looked at the roadmap, and they're offering to do a video production to more visualize what the roadmap is. So maybe we can take that concept as well and implement some video production, like Joe was referring to help the educational process, because some people are much more liable to understand visually.
Okay, awesome. And then so Josh was mentioning like augmented reality or virtual reality and or VR. And I also think that we should have like kinetic like games, or
this is where
kinetic learners need activities and games.
This is where Chris Larkin from UMAP can really come in handy too. He's very much into virtual reality and creating educational process to that. So, he's part of the UMAP. He's actually the creator of UMAP.
Right. So I'm kind of curious. So like we're bringing people into the Declaration of Agreements. Josh, what is your take on like when someone is coming into the agreement field? Like, what's the appropriate time for them to start, interacting with the agreement field with their own agreements?
At any time, what we're doing is aligning to our agreement fields the whole way. So they would at any point be able to question something that didn't resonate, create a new solution. So it's not about, you can't say, no, I don't like that. I mean, you can, but it's not helpful. So what we're saying is, oh, great. I'm glad that somebody's doing that, and I want to do it like this. So we would create a full proposal at any point along the way. We want to make sure we're doing it in the moment. We're not, in debt or in the wrong, like in the moment, at every moment, when there's anything that we have any questions on, that we clarify it. So that when we get into an organizational level, that we know exactly how things work, or into a space that we know what we're doing in that space.
Sure. You know what occurs to me, and everyone can kind of reflect back, but to me, I think that it's very important that people have a sense of what their own agreements are before they even start to engage. Because first of all, if someone creates their own agreement fields before they're in the onboarding process, that creates a stake for them. There's engagement, there's a participation, and they have ownership of the process. And then secondly, it prevents us from running into problems of people who really don't know what they think. I mean, I think that's the most dangerous possibility, is to have someone in the middle of a process with like the whole community and be like, I've never even asked myself what I agree to. Do you think so?
I think for me, I think that some people might not know what that looks like, so they may not be able to even do that. But then some people might, and if they can, then that would be great, because we want our agreements to be something very measurable. A lot of people make, in fact, every other agreement field I've seen so far is like, we agree to world peace. It's like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. And so, I mean, knowing how to co-create those is kind of like knowing how to be a master planner. It takes some skills. So hopefully, anyhow.
So maybe a self-inquiry process before they join the onboarding to the declaration, about just to gauge like how much have they put into their own process of controlling their yeses and nos. Be in touch with their own consent. I think that's a very big deal.
I just wanted to, sorry, just on that line of thinking and developing the introductory pathway, I guess is what I'm thinking, is like a choose your own adventure story with this. And, being able to go through each of the bigger significant steps of agreement and asking each person who's entering the realm, do you have this agreement in your life already? If so, move forward. If not, what does that look like? And just giving, and that this is a pretty grand kind of complex thing to create, but just to be able to give people that pathway to see how far along they are and where they need to develop and hone those things before they're moving into the full agreement. So awesome. I just thought that would be really neat to create. And that could be virtual reality / just text based as well, or picture based, or it could be all three.
Or it could be like a performance based, or it could be. So this is so exciting because there's so many ways that you could introduce that process. Anybody else?
I just want to say I really like that, Joe. Choose your own adventure. I really like that.
Yeah. Anybody else have a comment about it?
I'm Malia, really quickly. I turned off my screen share, figuring. Oh. Do you have the Google Doc in front of you?
I don't, because can you put the link in the chat? I'm taking notes in the chat because I haven't.
Oh, okay. Let me get you that.
Figured out where the Google Doc is on my computer. That's my bad.
Let me make sure you're on it. I think you are. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that I am.
Lillian Official. Okay, so you're there. I'll give you the link to it.
Okay, great.
Copy. And then what you can, yeah. So that way you can stay on. Otherwise, you won't be able to stay. It's on the chat. Can you look in the chat?
Okay. Great. Awesome. Copy.
So go there, and then you can stay on the subject, and I'll be right back.
Okay, great.
And just, I think we were filling in where I was at least. I don't know about everyone else, but where I was at was where I thought we were at was what we have. We went through what we have when it comes to onboarding to the declaration. Is I think that I added some things there, and you can maybe you can keep co-creating that, and I'll be right back.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josh.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Everybody's still with us. So I'm just curious because Joe, you had this idea about the virtual reality and like how creative we can get with how we present this. And we're creating a governance app inside of Holochain, which could actually be used like as a yes and no, like people could actually go through it as like an online form, but that just seems like really dry. But maybe you could make it interactive or like in a virtual reality setting. But do you have an idea of like points that you think are relevant to you, like as you're going through this process of what are the things that you want to include in the story? Do you already know?
I don't necessarily know, though it's part of my life work to just understand how to, better tell these stories. I just see such a void in that whole entire part of our existence, and us here today and those involved in what we're doing. I don't know if we had an unfair advantage from birth, just being aware and more intuitive to, some of these changes that are needed, but so many people will need that guidance. And so I just see that helping facilitate in a really simplistic way, but accessible, is just really, and because we're in such a visual world, whether or not it's virtual reality, people are on Instagram and places where they just see picture after picture. So even just having that picture go yes, go no, and just being able to swipe left, swipe right, even a swipe left, swipe right, because that's how dating is and things of that nature. You know what I mean? If you understand this, swipe left, if and people get that. So just tapping into what already is, as we're moving faster and faster with accessibility to technology in our pockets and things of that nature, just seems wise, to not try and invent new technologies. While we all are doing that too, we can just tap into the apps in ways that are already in existence. So I don't have the necessarily pathway or the story necessarily, but I would love to dedicate more and more time to understanding that. And that's what I was just seeing as I'm watching this live document go further and further. I'm just like, some of these agreements deserve to be poetry. They deserve to be parts of songs. They deserve to be parts of children's stories and television, movies, all the things are right now. And those are grand things, but that's how the global consciousness is moving right now, at least right now. As we move past that, it's still there. And that's where we can access people and tap in. So I just feel like, the better we are at knowing the current society, systemic storytelling pathways and utilizing them, the better.
That's really, really articulate. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing some of those stories. This is really cool. So everybody, I want to hear from everybody who hasn't said anything yet. Is there something that you find about your journey into this agreement field that you would like to make sure gets passed on? Anyone? Tangelina? 1 second, Stephen? Jenner or Stephen Black?
I'll add something to that.
Okay.
I think one of the important factors is definitely to determine how many people, or who's coming through the portal that has actually worked or been a part of creating the new paradigm, and who's just coming into the portal out of curiosity, and how many times have they worked on organizational teams. I think that really, really makes a difference. And I'm not for when I visualize this, I'm thinking, somebody kind of alluded to this, is not necessarily recreating the wheel, but partnering with schools and education centers that already provide personal healing modalities and self-mastery techniques, and maybe even how to work in group teams. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but
Well, Tiana, can I maybe be supportive? I feel like I can resonate with what you're trying to say, because I was reflecting on that today in my own journey, which is that the amount of healing that I've done on myself is like, the amount of damage that was done to me and the amount of stuff that I had to heal is actually what brought me to this place, right? So we don't actually come here until we've committed to our own healing to a certain degree. Is that what you're kind of saying?
well, that's what I'm curious as to whether my thoughts about that are delusional, because we have the law of attraction in play, and I continue to be delusioned by the fact that people that are working in my field have done that inner work. I've actually done my whole life has spent healing, in traditional healing, in self-mastery school, in AA. I spent 13 years there, and healing the trauma of my life, and not only that, becoming a holistic healer and healing 5 other past lives. So it just kind of continues to go on, and now I'm healing on collective levels, transmuting.
So maybe I'm hearing that it would be nice to have like a healers collective for people who are coming out of the old paradigm and just haven't got orientation of where to start. And then there's going to be people who are like, I've been doing this, and I'm so happy to find other people who are doing it too. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I guess so. I'm trying to figure out within my own being what is actually necessary. Is that specifically necessary? Are the people that are coming through the portal going to be people that are already resonating at the higher frequencies, or are we in need of providing a space to where, if they haven't done inner work, but they want to come through the portal and they're not working on a higher vibrational level, do we need to determine that ahead of time? And are we going to have a place to send them?
I just want to interrupt for a moment. Please, can I please interrupt for a moment?
Sure,
Josh,
go ahead.
Josh, can you please mute? There's a lot of background noise interfering with everything.
Me?
Can you please mute?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, so speaking of storytelling, to Tiana's point, there's this beautiful film called Our Home. It's in Portuguese. It's from Brazil. It's from the Chico Xavier movement, and Chico Xavier was a psychic, and he wrote this book called I forget how you say it in Portuguese. It's called Our Home in Portuguese. It's basically about a spirit who dies, and he's still identified with the body, and he has a terrible time until he stops identifying with the body, and then his experience of the afterlife gradually becomes better and better. And it's beautiful because in his story about the afterlife, there's helpers who come out and find him in his abject misery, and then like bring him to a facility where he can be treated for his basically egomania. They're like, oh, well, you know, you're identified with the body, you're really suffering, and like, we're here, we know it's ugly, you know, we're professionally trained to deal with how bad this is. And it's really kind of like what Tiana's saying. It's kind of like when someone's so ego identified, it's not difficult because they're really suffering. If you look at any church, you know, you see these people like kneeling down in front of angels begging for help. Why are they begging for help? They're begging for help because they're not happy. They're not doing good, you know? And yes, Josh.
Okay, I just want to, it's 2:30, so we're at our time. Just to respect everyone's time, what I want to do is I actually had some downloads from Mike Upstone this morning on some things. I would like to give a chance for people to let them know that you know, we can continue the progress on the actual training next week. I'll be gone till then. I'll be traveling, so I don't know if I'll have any calls in between. But what we can do with this subject is we can continue it. What we're talking about right now, for whoever wants to stay, and I have a process, and what this is. So it's what happens whenever there's something that does go off subject, or that we're not just complete. There's something else there. Let's just call it a problem. Okay, there's a potential problem. Or there's something that we're looking at deeper. So we're deeper diving. We're transitioning. There's two ways to handle it. One's a listening circle, but I think at this point, what he's trained me on how to do, and I would like to facilitate, is called, I forgot what it's called, but I know what the process is. So I just want to give that respecting everyone's time to let them know that if they're here to co-create that, they can. And once we get onto a problem or something that's arising like this, and this has come up a couple times, like more than a couple times, like last week came up, this week, and it's come up like multiple times in the field, this question about healing. So I would like to just give that opportunity. So I guess for now, is there anyone that has to go that wants to sign off before we dive deeper into this subject here?
No, but I would like to say something in regards to what Tiana was saying. Aside from the healing aspect of it, I completely resonate and agree with what you were saying about the different levels of cohesiveness and experiences within in being involved in different groups and creating a new paradigm. You know, some people will come in just as curious. Maybe they're just waking up to all this, and then there's going to be people like us who have already been involved in this kind of thing for years. So I totally resonate with what she was saying on that aspect, and I just want to endorse and enforce, you know, just say that I agree with that. That's very important.
Mm. That's beautiful.
Great. Okay, it looks like no one has to leave. So how this looks is first, the first thing to do is to get a real world example. Like a maybe something either that's happened in the past or just a solid example, so we can understand what it is that we're afraid of happening or something like that. And I guess that could come from either you, Malia, or Tiana. I don't know who was.
Well, I guess I would like to maybe frame it not as what we're afraid of happening. I hear that Tiana sounds very concerned, and I want to reframe it in a different context, which is that, first of all, there's going to be a lot of healers involved in this effort. People who are great healers, powerful healers. And we have them as a resource. And we also can work together. We don't all have to do it all. So I understand that it's very frustrating when you see someone, they're almost there and they're getting to the point where they understand it and then they fall back into their ego, and it's disappointing, it's frustrating, but as a community, you know, these are just pulses. I see it as that these are pulses that we have to go through. People, when they're decompressing from the old paradigm, it's a lot. It is a lot, and they need time to absorb the information. Like they just physically change that fast because it's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
So
Do you want to reflect back, Tiana?
Yeah, I do want to reflect back, because it's not that I'm concerned, but what I'm trying to get clarity on is what when we're going into co-creating a training program, I really want to understand, who are we training? Who is who is the person that we're training, and what are we doing the training for? I don't specifically resonate with creating a training program that people come in and then they're like, well, I don't need this training, or so I'm trying to get a bigger vision on what we're actually, who is it that we're creating the training for?
Mm-hmm.
I see it as tools for, like, even if you're already like handled that part of your life, whether it's finding your purpose, reorienting your time, healing, whatever, preventing future situations, keeping yourself from self-sabotage. Even if you've already handled all that and you're already clear in all that area, I think it's good to have some tools to work with, so that people can go, oh, and a common sense of, it's like nonviolent communication. It's a common sense of communication, which will probably be pieces of those early training modules. So although right now we're moving forward with the best we can, I do see the people that are coming in, especially randomly in the future. Like right now, it's very controlled. It's very we're doing it step by step, and we're making sure that we, within a team, have our unified field together. That means when we get stuck, we're slowing it down and supporting each other and making sure that we gain clarity through these issues like we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
If that answers it, just basically like, we're developing that, and it just needs to. This is a piece of it. It just needs to happen, and we can start doing those first steps as soon.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
what comes to mind, what Joe said earlier about the pathway. You know, maybe we can include, as in the introduction process, an educational pathway where people can go left or right, and then we can decipher a little bit more about what their needs are in this education.
Great.
I like to.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm being seen either. Can I speak?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So I want to use Joe's virtual reality idea as a concept for kind of answer the question that's going on here. Likewise, in our community, we actually started creating a virtual reality. And the thing is that we talk about people being at different levels, and that's also just a part of human development. A child is going to be at a much lower level than an adult, and also depending on their experiences in life. So the really important question is, who is this being designed for? What stage of consciousness are these tools for? My short answer would be that this is going to be for people who are coming together, who are agreeing to use a certain set of tools for communication, for relating together, for problem solving. So it needs to be for like that whole that group of people coming together. The advantage of having any kind of like walkthrough or adventure is that we're going on this journey continuously. There's all kinds of tools and developmental things we go on, and you can identify weaknesses and stuff. So if we have a certain criteria for you being a part of a certain community, like you've learned these skills, these are required, then they can get identified in that fashion. This is also useful for helping people come together to create groups for different ways to live in community. There's a lot of different ways to live in community. And one of the things that can happen is that we can become overwhelmed with all the different tools that are available to us and trying to use all the best ones. There's a lot of best tools. There's a lot of really good tools. So it's difficult. And then we talk about people being at different levels of consciousness. That's even harder because, again, what level are we at? What level do we want to have the group at? How are we going to help elevate other people there? Also, if you identify with having done a lot of healing, how much more healing do you have left? I meet people all the time who they're healers, and yet they are the most traumatized people I know, and they're so easily triggered. So it's really hard to ask that to the individual. So healers are absolutely essential to a community because when you live differently, you're going to discover these triggers, especially when if you have been in the life of this 9-to-5 job or whatever, where if you identify as your job, you have a lot of work to do. And that's going to be the majority of people. So I think that there needs to be a very specific scope for which people are going to be involved in which groups. And then those groups selecting which tools they want to use to communicate together. And in general, just identifying all these great tools out there is a really useful thing so people can try them out.
Yeah. So I think Stephen that was beautiful. And I think Stephen's really drawn out the thread here of what the danger is in trying to categorize levels of development in terms of spiritual consciousness. We all have our downfall and our Achilles heel. And like, you know, I may have done 20 years worth of work on myself, but that doesn't necessarily qualify me to judge another person's level of spiritual consciousness. So then what you do is you create this whole ego-based framework of how we judge and categorize people and what level are you on, and that's spiritual materialism, and that's the downfall of many spiritual communities. So we don't need that kind of mess. Like, I think that Stephen's exactly right, that having a choose your own adventure model kind of gives people the freedom to work on their own shadow, and where they're strong and in the light, then they can help others. And there really isn't this level thing, you know, we're all kind of working through different issues. Yeah. Stephen.
The only thing I want to throw in there, and it's a bit of humor on Stephen, I totally agree with everything you said, except for one thing, and that when you said that children are a lot lower in the level, but of course, from my perspective, many children in the consciousness level, they are much higher than many people that have experienced life already. You know, I think you know what I'm saying, and I just mean that in a bit of humor.
Yeah.
Right. I understand what you're saying there, and I won't go into that too much, but like there is also just stages of development that children go through. So we don't need to go into that. The other thing I want to add is a gamification aspect. I don't know if you all are familiar with Khan Academy, but in it, they had this idea of mastery learning. So you'd go through something, and if you really were struggling in the area, you'd keep going through it and you learn more, and then you'd eventually achieve mastery. There was no like, you pass at 90%. You don't pass until you're at 100%. Or not even 100% mastery. There's ways to identify that. And that would be very useful to tie into an adventure kind of game. And Joe, if this is something that you actually are working on, I have a lot to share because I've done a lot of work in this in the past. Yeah, there's just so many tools out there. But to create a way in which people can kind of, whether it's an online portal or a virtual reality or whatever, mastery learning is a really good way to go and to revisit, because we might think, oh yeah, I remember NVC. I learned it like a few years ago, but what's my level at that right now? If I were to jump into a community that uses NVC, like I'm a little rusty, so it'd be like useful to refresh myself on that tool and to regain mastery there. And that becomes an objective space in which we can kind of look at where people are at. Are you familiar with these tools? Now, we're not judging your level of spirituality. We are judging or evaluating, not judging, evaluating is how familiar you are with these tools that this community is using, that these leaders are using. So that I noticed when Milena was starting to facilitate, there was a little bit of like getting familiar with this facilitation style. So that, but if you had like that level of mastery, like, okay, we're doing this stuff. She's ready. She's good for that right now. And she's been doing great since. So that's all.
Yeah. Cool. Go ahead, Josh. Tiana, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing that might be helpful to break it down into, you know, I hear a lot of being able to provide the people with tools and the co-creation tools. And so we might want to break it down into the difference between like maybe just co-creating in a group or on a team, and actually training and co-creating and giving people tools to live in community. Those seem like two very, very different things to me. And if we wanted to go into the actual creation of the training program, how would we prioritize that? And then what tools do we provide in order to do that and to give people the tools that they need?
Those are really big questions. And Josh, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, I have a small answer, and then Vishal wanted to speak. So, okay. My small answer to that is yes, we have a very clear definition between living together on a space and having space agreements, and then organizationally working together where we're not, right now at this point, when you choose to work with someone at organizational level, you're going to choose your culture code, which is how you interact with them. So as long as they're keeping those agreements, we all get to choose our team. We get to choose who we work with. So at any moment. So although we want to go through these processes together, there's a lot of agreements that are already made universally that support us. Like if you're feeling off balance, to take a moment to recenter yourself. General agreements that we've already kind of have at our disposal and that we've all agreed to. That although someone may not be at a higher level of energetically, we can still respect where we're at as a group and align accordingly within our work groups. And right now we're still random, but I think our energies are going to align. I think that's going to be a natural part of it as we choose who we want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So maybe there's a general need for training on the agreement field and the agreements and how we're working together and helping people guide them along. And then also for each individual team, they would need to have maybe their own ability to train people on how they work as well.
Yeah. So for now, as we get into organizational and we're not doing the healing within ourselves right now, like we're going to develop those programs and we can all jump into it. It's going to be great and it's going to help us. And for now,
I just wanted to add that I put into the chat a link to Re-inhabiting the Village for Tiana and for anyone else who has interest in pursuing this, because Jamaica Stevens basically wrote a book that came out of festival culture about what people have found to be the common needs of the village, like as they're reintegrating people into an earth-based culture through festival culture. And she's assembled this beautiful kind of encyclopedia of like the part of the village of the new paradigm village. And so maybe, whoever wants to take a look at that, Tiana, I think it would be very consoling to your concerns. And maybe we can use that as also a sketch, for different functions of our community as someone starts to get acquainted with it. What are we going to need in order to take care of them, including spiritually? So I think it's a great concern that you raised, and I'm really happy that we had this conversation. Josh, do you want to keep it?
I definitely do. Let's right now Vishal wants to speak, and what we have here is a situation where we've lost a little bit of our container, and so because there's not a clear focus right now, which is okay. So what we're going to do right now is just do deep listening, work on our listening skills, and so that means if there's anyone that we can respect one person at a time to speak without like having to have an answer or a solution for anyone, and just allowing people to say what they need. Vishal wants to say something, and so go ahead, Vishal.
Guys, so sorry you guys don't know me yet, but I know we will over time. And I just wanted to say that, how many people here currently live in a village or have access to one? Because I don't. And the whole reason I'm here is because I'm hoping that I'll find the people that I'm looking for that also want to contribute their assets or their money or their skill sets. And I'm looking to do the same. You know, I want to put money down. I want to introduce friends that have land. I want to put in everything I can to find the loving bunch of people that and who has the skill sets to build this. You know, I think it's really important that we help other people. But before we do, I think we need to get to the stage where we've helped ourselves, because at the end of the day, I think we need the help the most right now. So we can focus on ourselves. I know that once we have the land, oh my God, there's so much money to be made in growth in terms of retreats. They're huge. You know what I hate about retreats? You go do a retreat and you go back home. No way. I want to have the opportunity for these people to stick around, you know? I mean, I'm so grateful that when I came to Mexico as a 2-week holiday, I had the opportunity of taking some ancestral medicine. It was the ayahuasca. And afterwards, rather than go home, luckily I had the financial liberty to say, hey, I'm going to stick around for a little longer. I'm so glad I did, because it reshaped my entire life. And now I'm still here after 5.5 years. And in terms of education, what are we going to be bringing to the table in terms of how can we play a role in the ecosystem of a village? So I've been traveling around finding educators from around the world, people who I think that are absolutely phenomenal, that build like some of the greatest bamboo. And obviously when I say bamboo, it's going to leave a lot to your imagination. And this is why we need to use imagery. This is, we were taught how to construct lots of wonderful things. Somebody said, let's not do everything from scratch. Let's find these educators. So there's at the Green School, they have this thing called Ibuku, and they can teach you how to construct like real beautiful things, like these little guys. Whoop, my debit card. It's okay. All right, we can go back one more. Bam. This video is on a bit of a delay. These lovely things, so we can all live extremely luxurious lifestyles with using very little money, provided that we have the resources of food and accommodation to look after a few people. I don't want to go off tangent here. I just wanted to kind of say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Can you share the link for that building community or that building course in the?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Josh, I want to refer back to you because I think you have some goals.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that feels like they have something they really want to speak that is basically a chance for everyone to be heard, and then if we're not, we'll go on to respecting our time on our focus. But if there's anyone else that really has something they want to just be able to say in a clear open space here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we can do is I can do this. I can go back to a screen share. And so the best way to do this, Malia, as we're doing like a kind of a combo today, we didn't really get a chance to discuss this ahead of time and practice. So kind of
went okay.
Yeah, it's going good. But I think it's going to be nice to find ways to co-facilitate, to have different team facilitation also in the future, but we need to kind of still hone that in. We're on the next steps. So I have energy to go, but I have my daughter to go to. I'm welcome to just leaving it to you as a host if you want, Malia, and whoever wants to stick around can just continue. And what that looks like is, like we've gone through what we have, just going through, if you can screen share, Malia, and show people where we're at, then they can co-create it, and just staying on the subject. Your job would be just to say, okay, who has ideas here? And of course, you can add your own in, but to really just get traction and throw the solutions in there, and then just that's it.
Okay. I wanted to ask about all the stuff that's in the chat right now, because it's a little bit garbled. Like, do you want me to like cut and paste that into the doc, or should I put it in a separate doc and then you can kind of like link
I
to
would
it?
throw it definitely in a separate doc, 100% in a separate doc.
Okay.
This needs to be super clear and focused, and because people are going to be coming on board and reading this stuff. So right now it's not super comprehensive, but that's okay. We'll clean it up. We'll clean it up. I'll make it. We'll help it be worded better.
Okay.
John, JJ.
Yeah, I just want to take this moment to say thank you guys. I have to go. I have to go prepare for another call. And
I
Yeah,
also
so-
need to hop off as well. So maybe this is the appropriate time.
Okay, let's do
So
that.
who's staying on the call? Tiana?
I actually have to get going too, so it seems like yeah, maybe we just have to pick up another time because I'm definitely interested.
Yes, it's been very informative and creative, and I've enjoyed your all of your input and company, and I'm happy to be involved here. So I'll say my goodbyes right now. Thank you, guys.
Bye, JJ.
Bye.
And bye, everyone else. I'm going to hop off as well.
Goodbye.
I did want to speak into I'm just going to, I'll just send a message.
Okay.
Okay. Aloha.
Bye.
Have a great
Aloha.
day.
Okay, who we got?
I'm gonna go too. I just want to say thank you all. Glad to be a part of the crew here, and looking forward to moving forward with y'all. So this is wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready, brother.
Likewise, thank you all.
Okay.
Peace.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
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 I'll make you host, and if there's anyone that wants to continue, they can. And then I'll see you guys later also.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, great. Let me share my screen.
Make host.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
So,